Okay, so what I expect to see for work here. I start out with what I'm given. I've got 1 gram. Automatically, my conversion factor, I am told by dimensional analysis, gram shows up in the denominator, and then because I'm going to milligrams, the milligram shows up in the numerator. My conversion says 1 milligram is 10 to the minus 3 grams. My answer then is 1 times 10 to the positive third milligrams, or 1,000 milligrams. Both are correct. Questions, confusions? Okay, nanometers in a meter. Okay, I have the fact, I have 1 meter. Automatically, if meters is not in my final answer, meter shows up in the denominator. I am always going to or from my base unit in a prefix system. Always. So we do this, then I have nanometers up here. My rule is 1 nanometer, 10 to the minus 9 meters. Which means my answer is 1 times 10 to the 9th nanometers, or 1 followed by 9 zeros nanometers. Again, you do not have to write in scientific notation unless you are specifically asked to, or you have to show your significant digits. Questions, confusions on that? Okay. Those hopefully were fairly straightforward. Next one says, I want to go to kilometers from centimeters. Okay, I'm going to get a little more complicated. I start out with what I'm given. It asks me, determine the possible equalities between the units in the problem and meters. So I have the fact, I have 2 quantities. I have kilometers and I have centimeters. We do not go directly between them. We go through the base unit of meters. That's how everything's defined. So I need to set both of these equal to meters. So I have the fact that 1 kilometer equals 10 to the 3rd meters. I have that 1 meter equals, let's try that the other way, that I have 1 centimeter equals 10 to the negative 2 meters. Those are my possible equalities. So that would be what would go in the blank for A. It asks for the possible equalities between the units in the problem and meters. Rewrite these equalities as conversion factors. How many conversion factors should I get out of this? 4 is absolutely correct. Thank you. So, always, if you have an equivalence A over B, this yields 2 conversion factors. A over B, which is equal to B over A, which equals 1. Because they are equivalent. So, I have 1 kilometer per 1,000 meters. And if you wanted to write it out as 1,000 instead of 10 to the 3rd, that's fine. I do it that way because it's just quicker. Or I could write it as 1,000 meters per 1 kilometer. Absolutely correct. There's my 2 conversion factors from here. Same thing. Here I could write it as 1 centimeter per 10 to the minus 2 meters, 10 to the minus 2 meters per 1 centimeter. Equivalent to this is the fact that 100 centimeters per 1 meter, or 1 meter per 100 centimeters. They mean the same thing, just so you know. But there's my 4 conversion factors. That's what I'm asking for, the 4 conversion factors. That should be B, where it said rewrite these equalities as conversion factors. Then, decide which conversion factors will give the correct unit. Well, what do I need to do to figure that out? I need to know where I start. So in C, I did this, 987 centimeters. Lost my place. Well, what do I know right away? Dimensional analysis tells me centimeters has to go in the denominator, which means meters goes in the numerator. Remember, any of these prefixed units, my conversion factor will always have the prefix unit and the base unit. Always. No need to think, no need to struggle. It's always going to do that. So centimeters goes in the denominator to cross cancel, which means I'm using this one. So I plug in 10 to the minus 2 and 1. I'm at meters. I want to go all the way to kilometers. I am not done. That tells me automatically meter shows up in the denominator to cross cancel. That tells me then kilometers shows up in the numerator. Just looking at my dimensions, I get the correct unit. That's called dimensional analysis. It's a very powerful little tool. Then I just fill in the blank here. 1 kilometer per 1,000 meters. Now I do the work. Quickly in my head, I've dealt with my units, so I know I'm ending up with kilometers. I'm going to have 987. I deal with my powers of 10. 10 to the negative 2 divided by 10 to the third gives me times 10 to the negative 5. And that would be kilometers. That is not correct in the fact that it's not correct scientific notation. The answer is correct, though. What do I have to do now? To write this in correct scientific notation, I would move this over 2 places. If I move it over 2 places, that means I'd add 2 to that. And this becomes 9.87 times 10 to the negative 3 kilometers. If I simply wanted to write it as a number, not in scientific notation, this says I have to move that decimal point over 5 places. So I go over here, and so I would end up as 0.00987 kilometers. Yes, no, maybe? Seem good? Wilhelm, good? Yeah? Ethan? Cool. Alrighty. Now, these problems are going to be very repetitive because they're all basically done this way.